4 sections, 25 marks each, 100 minutes, and one shot at destiny. This is the short answer question section on the WSET 3 exam, and boy does it make wine students soil their undies. Well, the fact that you're watching this tells me you're also a little nervous, but great news, you've landed at the perfect address in the interwebs to help you conquer the short answer question section on the WSET 3 exam. And I've got some succulent tips for doing really well coming right up. Just do me a favor first, will you? Go on and give this video a like and subscribe to our wine channel. Hi, I'm Thea Beckman, a learning coach with Brainscape, the world's smartest study and flashcard app. Now, if you haven't yet discovered our certified WSET 3 flashcards, go check them out today because they will help you understand and memorize the essential facts twice as efficiently as any other study method. And as a bonus, when you sign up for our certified class, you get a free WSET style practice exam emailed straight to your inbox, complete with a short answer question section. And this will give you a chance to practice the strategies I'm going to lay out in this video. So with that said, let's dive right in. My first tip is to start with the multiple choice section of the exam first. This is the shorter and usually easier part of the WSET 3 exam that requires less deep thinking, because you just have to choose your answer from a list of options as opposed to thinking it up from scratch. Now, tackling this section first allows you to ease into the exam, to overcome any nerves you might have, and it'll stimulate your brain and get the juices flowing. Also, the sooner you can get through this section without rushing, the more time you'll have to dedicate towards the more complicated short answer questions. So try to get the multiple choice section done first, within 20 to 30 minutes ideally, and you'll be primed and ready to tackle those short answer questions. My next tip is to read each question carefully and identify the command words so that you know what the examiner is specifically asking you for. All too often, students rush into a question and out of anxiety or lack of time or both, they regurgitate everything they know without actually answering the question. But this strategy is almost guaranteed to lose you marks. What you need to do is read the question carefully and look for verbs or action or command words like define or state, as in define malolactic fermentation. Explain or describe are other common action words you can expect to see on the WSET 3 exam, and they usually want you to dive a little deeper with your answer than merely defining something. Then there's compare, which requires you to show how two or more things relate to one another. Are they complementary? Are they the same? Are they different? Are they opposites? In other words, don't just define one term and then the other, compare them and explain how they differ. So locate those command words, understand what the examiner is asking you to do, and then do it. This can be a little complex, so I really recommend that you read our free study guide on short answer questions and identifying those command words. Link to that in the show notes below. Now, my next tip is an important one, and it's provide a fact for every mark allocated to the question. If it's only worth 1 mark, then you just need to provide a single piece of information. But if it's worth 5 marks, you need to make 5 points. The whole point of this is to determine how much information the examiner wants from you before you just go ahead and write too much or too little. Now, what can make WSET short answer questions tricky is that they are often compound questions. In other words, a single question can request multiple pieces of information, which is why you've got to read the question carefully to tease out exactly what the examiner wants from you. Let's take a look at an example. Define malolactic fermentation and give 2 examples of styles of still white wine where it is used in the winemaking process. Explain how malolactic fermentation impacts the textures and aromas of these wines. 5 marks. In this question, we can see there are really 5 facts being requested, which is also reflected by the mark allocation of 5 points. So what are these facts? Well, they want a definition for malolactic fermentation. That's the process where malic acid is converted to lactic acid. Boom, 1 mark. They want 2 examples of white wines that are made using malolactic fermentation. Or you have Chardonnays from Napa Valley, California, and Côte d'Or region of Burgundy. Boom, 2 points. Then they want you to explain how malolactic fermentation influences texture and aromas. Well, it adds a creamy, oily mid-palate texture and buttery aromas. Boom! Another 2 marks. Now let's write that as a full coherent sentenced answer, because that's what the examiners want to see from you. Malolactic fermentation is the process where malic acid is converted to lactic acid. Chardonnays from Napa Valley, California and the Côte d'Or region of Burgundy, France typically undergo malolactic fermentation, which adds a creamy, oily mid-palate texture and buttery aromas. By writing a fact for every mark and stitching them together into a coherent sentenced answer, you'll make the examiner happy, which means top marks for you. My final tip for conquering short answer questions is to use Brainscape's flashcards to learn the essential facts more efficiently. All of the questions in this section require you to have a deep working knowledge of the content covered in the WSET 3 textbook and an ability to weave together the elements of wine you've learned throughout your course. And you simply cannot do this if you don't understand the subject from the foundations up. This is where Brainscape's WSET 3 flashcards come in. We've distilled down the latest WSET 3 textbook into a collection of flashcards designed to drill you on the most essential information. But more than just providing the facts, we've taken great care to provide detailed descriptions below the answers so that you really understand how a particular piece of information fits into the greater tapestry of wine production. Then, using spaced repetition and other nifty cognitive learning principles, Brainscape puts your brain to the test in a way that is hyper-efficient and personalized to your unique pace of learning. If you know something well, you won't see it again in a while, which will save you time. If, however, you struggle with something, the app will automatically repeat it at regular intervals until you learn, understand, and memorize the information. Done this way, Brainscape is scientifically proven to help you learn twice as fast as any other study technique. So get our certified WSET 3 flashcards in your corner to master the facts and confidently approach the exam. And don't forget that when you sign up for them, you'll get a free practice exam mailed to you within minutes. So there are 4 rock-solid tips for kicking ass on the WSET 3's short answer questions section. Start with the multiple choice section first to ease into the exam, get your juices flowing and free up as much time as possible for the harder section to come. Read each question carefully and identify the command words so that you know what the examiner is asking you for. Provide a fact for every mark allocated to the question, and use Brainscape's flashcards to master the WSET 3 content so that all the facts you need to confidently answer those questions are at your fingertips. Now, for even more advice on conquering this section on the WSET 3 exam, check out Brainscape's full study guide in the Wine Academy. You'll find the link to that and a few other guides I think might be of special interest to you in the show notes below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel for a steady stream of awesome wine advice and entertainment. And finally, remember, if you study hard, look after yourself, lean on Brainscape's flashcards and follow the strategy laid out in this guide and video, you will rise to the challenge of the WSET 3 exam.